Good evening. It is October 12th, 2021. It is 7:03 p.m. Welcome to the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education meeting. Here is your board president, Shelley Ryan.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. There is nothing to report from closed session. I will now begin and open the regular session. It is now 7:04. Call to order. It's Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to invite Linda, do you want to give a?
Dr.
Okay.
Richter is going to introduce our wonderful student who's here this evening to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Richter.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, President Ryan, members of the board, student board member, Superintendent Delatorre, and cabinet. We're excited that beginning with tonight's board meeting, we will be inviting our wonderful students to lead the board in the flag salute. Tonight, we're excited and honored to have Lucas Matthew Levy, San Marino High School ASB president, join us and invite him to the podium to lead us in the flag salute. And then after the flag salute, take a moment to share a little bit about yourself and your school. Welcome, Matthew.
I'd like to thank the school board and I'd like everyone to please rise. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Hello, everybody. My name is Lucas Levy. I'm a senior at San Marino High School. I'm currently the ASB president, and it's my honor to be up here to talk about myself and the school. This is my fourth year in ASB. I've started when I was a freshman, and I've loved every single minute of it. It's given me a ton of leadership experience. I really love being with all the other members of the student body. Planning events, we plan homecoming, prom, winter formal, all the events that students get to enjoy throughout the year. And we really have a good time doing it as well. We have our advisor, Mrs. Courtney Rushing. She really helps guides us, and our vice president, board member, Karen Nguyen as well. So we really enjoy the process. A little bit about myself. I'm a senior, as I said, at the high school. I'm a track and cross country runner, and I occasionally do soccer as well. I really enjoy reading in my spare time, and I hope to major in political science in college, and I'm looking at the East Coast for colleges, primarily in DC.
President Ryan would like to present you with a certificate of appreciation, and then we'll take a photo. President Ryan.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Ask you to stand right here in the center. The room over here.
Over here.
Yep. Can we get all the board members for that? Yeah. Come on in. Back there. You can come over here if you don't mind.
In front of the stage?
Just come behind me.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, good. This is good. This is perfect. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Like Jacob is at American in DC.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
That would be great.
Oh.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richter, for that idea and the inspiration to include our students. So thank you. And Dr. Delatorre. Next, we have approval of the agenda. This is an action item.
I move to approve the agenda for tonight.
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Chong. Thank you, Mrs. Jack. Roll call, Mr. Kalaki,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mrs. Jack,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, student board member.
Aye.
Motion passes for the approval of the agenda. 6C, approval of minutes. This is an action item for Board of Education meeting minutes for September 28th, 2021.
I move to approve for the minutes September 28, 21.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Thank you, Mrs. Chong. Roll call vote, Mrs. Jack,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mr. Kalaki,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, student board member.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion has passed for the approval of minutes for September 28th. Public comments. This is a procedural item. The Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. Persons who wish to provide public comment will have 3 options to submit public comments: submit through an online form, request to speak during the meeting via Zoom, request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card, submit through an online form. The public may submit public comments for the open or closed session on October 12th from 11 a.m. through 3:30 p.m. The comments received during this time will not be read during the meeting, but will be provided to the Board of Education. At this time, today at 3:30, we did not receive any comments. Request to speak during the meeting via Zoom. During public comment, the meeting will pause for 1 minute to take requests to speak. The raise hand function is used to take requests during the public comment period. For online attendees, press the raise hand icon to add yourself to the queue. For phone attendees, dial *9. The speaking order will be determined based on the order of requests received. Individual speakers will be unmuted and called to speak. There will also be a request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Please complete the public comment card, submit the completed card to the designated drop box with the assistant to the superintendent no later than when the agenda section, items that are not on the agenda, consent, information, action is called by the board president. Opportunities for public comment are offered prior to closed session, at the start of the regular open session for items not on the agenda, prior to the consent, information, and action items for matters on the agenda. The Board of Education reserves the right to add a public comment period prior to any individual item on the agenda. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker, maximum of 20 minutes for each subject matter. However, in the event there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains the discretion to adjust and limit the time allocated to each speaker to ensure that all wishing to speak will be heard within the 20-minute allotment. Communication from the audience regarding matters that are not on the agenda are to be made at this time. This is an informational item. Dr. Choi?
Thank you, President Ryan. We are pausing for 1 minute to take requests to speak regarding matters that are not on the agenda. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. We have 30 seconds remaining. If you would like to make a request to speak regarding matters that are not on the agenda, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. President Ryan, we have no requests.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. 7B, communication from the audience regarding matters on the consent agenda are to be made at this time. Also an informational item, Dr. Choi.
We are pausing for a minute to take requests to speak regarding matters in the consent section. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. $30 remaining. If you'd like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. Okay, we have no requests from Zoom.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. Next, consent section. This is the consent section of the agenda, 8A to 8E. May I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent section on the agenda.
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Chong. Thank you, Mrs. Jack. Roll call vote, Mrs. Jack,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mr. Kalaki,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, student board member.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion has passed for the consent section. Next, number 9 is communication section. This is a procedural item, communication from the Board of Education. Let's begin with Mr. Kalaki.
On October 1st, I attended the Huntington Middle School movie night on the field of Huntington Middle School with a lot of families that were very happy to be all together and watching a movie together. Also on October 2nd and 3rd, I believe I judged the debate tournament at Damien High School as one of the judges from San Marino High School. And on October 8th, I attended the homecoming parade. Board member Sean and I were sitting in the back of a Mustang, doing what we could to make sure we didn't fall out the back, but it was a great time. It looked as though the parade was very well attended and everybody was having a great time. So that was wonderful. Then later that night, I worked the concession stand at the high school for the football game. And there was a great crowd at the game as well. I did meet with the superintendent during the last couple of weeks and then also saw a report today that I believe it was US News and World Report had ranked our 2 elementary schools as being in the top 15 elementary schools in the state of California, which was a wonderful thing for all of our elementary families and all of our districts. So I wanted to congratulate the entire team at both of those campuses, administrators, teachers, staff, parents, and students for all working together and having great results. And you should be congratulated for that.
Thank you, Mr. Kalaki. Mr. Chang.
September 30, under Dr. Dina Richter arrangement. So I and Dr. Territory and Dr. Ritter, we visit Glendale School District, Crescenta Valley High School. So because they have a good CTE program for the sports medicine, so I enjoy to listen what the instructor they teach the student, and I think it's a very practical course. So and also they have some virtual anatomy, the equipment, so they can demonstrate some the human body just like you have a CT scan, they can slice for each section, so you can see what's going on, some abnormal the tissue, yeah. And then for the last Friday, thank you. I think someone probably give me the special arrangement. So first time I'm alone in the parade with a Ferrari.
With a
Yeah.
Ferrari.
two-seater,
Woo-hoo.
To see so I asked the owner driver, I said, can I stand up? And he said, oh no, you have to sit down. So a couple of people asked me why I don't stand up, and they cannot see my my head. But anyway, I enjoyed this parade because during the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, everyone hiding at the home. Look like this time, student and parent then all come out, and then along the Huntington Drive, yeah, a lot of people, the big crowd, yeah. I think it's very meaningful, the homecoming parade. And then lastly, Mr. Kiraki just mentioned about the good news from the 2 elementary school. Yeah, today I also find out this information. So among the top 20 elementary school in the entire California elementary school, so the Valentine is a top 6 and the Carver is top 13. And among the 20 no school in the San Gabriel Valley. Yeah. So this is 2022 US News, Best California Elementary School. Yeah, the news. Congratulations to the 2 principal of elementary school, and congratulate to the superintendent and the cabinet. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, another great news this week. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Chung.
Thank you. So on the 3rd of October, I attended the fall fair, and this was my first one ever going to a Valentine one, having always been at Carver. My daughter came, my older daughter came, and she was like, it's not any better than Carver's. So I think it was kind of fun to sort of see, and I think it's, you know, it's where your home and where your heart is at. If you came out of Valentine, the Valentine Fall Fair was the best thing you ever did. And if you came out of Carver, the Carnival was the best thing you ever did. So that was really fun seeing all the kids playing and seeing the older kids coming back and volunteering. I mean, my daughter literally came and just kind of hung out with her friends and volunteered back there for an hour. So that was really fun. And just to see the kids playing and the adults and everybody just having a good time, seeing everything back in full swing was fantastic. I saw a couple, our board president and our superintendent there, which was just fun. I attended virtually the Java with Jason for the juniors. They are doing a lot. A lot of it was college prep. A lot of it was counselor meetings. The breadth and depth of what they are giving to our students is amazing. I think the way they've been able to pivot and transition to what I thought was really a smart and resourceful was they're creating sort of a collection database of all of the information that students can access. So if it's about financial aid, if it's about coursework, if it's about testing, if it's about anything, you can basically go to our site and you can pull up all of these really great resources from perspectives, not just from San Marino people, but from people who are out there doing the work on the ground at the college level. In fact, I even sent it to my friend who's at a private school and I was like, just in case you're wondering, this is what we tell our students, which she found really insightful. So I just think that's fantastic what they've been able to do for our kids. And I'm looking at Mr. Kurtenbach over there. Also attended the homecoming parade in the game. Very exciting, very fun. One thing I watched another webinar this week, which was not exclusive to SMUSD, but is relevant to us, was an Innovate Pasadena webinar. And they do a lot of work around sort of the STEM companies in Pasadena. And they had this really interesting webinar around STEM education being done at PCC. So they spoke with different course professors and talked about all of the different coursework they offer their students for hands-on learning. A lot of them talked about hands-on learning projects, PBL, internships, lab work, and really helping to cultivate opportunities for their students to connect with the industries in Pasadena, which I thought was just amazing, fantastic. And it really got me thinking a lot about community college is not what it was when I went to school.
Mhm.
In fact, in some ways, I think maybe it's replaced what the UCs and Cal States used to do in some ways to really be able to prepare students for industry and work postgraduate. So I thought that was really great to see all of those things that are being done and look to how we might be able to introduce some of those to our students so that they can take advantage of that on their own or somehow. I also attended some PTA meetings from the school sites, which was great because I'm just so grateful for everything our PTA is doing to help support our parents and our families and help to connect. And I wanted to send a thank you to my fellow board members. I value Mr. Kalaki's attention to detail and always wanting to advocate for our district. And I really appreciate Mr. Chang's protectiveness of our schools that comes out of a longstanding love for our students. I appreciate Mrs. Jack's expertise and wisdom and experience she brings in really just helping us put things in perspective. And I appreciate so much President Ryan's leadership because she is so collaborative in nature. And I say that very intentionally because a lot of school boards are blowing up right now. And I am really grateful to be serving with these 4 people because we have learned to find a rhythm with each other that is respectful and collaborative. And it allows us to focus on the students and do the work that needs to be done to serve our students. So, and to support our staff and our teachers. And I know that we are all continuing to figure out how we do it, but I appreciate the compassion that we've all been able to show each other as we navigate that. So I don't think anybody thanks our board enough. So I'm going to do that.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaw, Mrs. Jeff.
I don't have anything to report. I just want to echo what Mr. Kalaki said and what Mr. Chang said in terms of thanking our elementary school principals and the teachers there and at all of our sites, obviously including the middle school and the high school, but in particular this time the elementary school in light of the honors that they've received, and also to thank, Superintendent Linda Delatorre and the rest of your staff and assistant superintendents for everything that you do to provide the structure, opportunity, and personnel to make all of those honors and accolades happen. So I'd just like to thank everybody. And I echo Jane. I also would like to thank the board for doing what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. So I'll keep my comments brief. Recently at the end of September, I participated in a risk threat assessment training program on September 30th. Thank you for inviting me. Dr. Delatorre invited me to a Rotary dinner at Dennis and Liz Kinnear's home. What a lovely group who just wants to serve our community and continue. I think you can report out on some of the announcements. On October 3rd, Valentine Fair, thank you to our board members who attended. It was wonderful fun. It was wonderful to see the staff out there. They were so happy to be out with the children. The children were having a great time. And it was hot, right? But they didn't care. And they enjoy just being together. Homecoming parade. Thank you, Dr. Delatorre, for getting my ride. Thank you, Dr. Choi and Dr. Richter for being our guides. It was wonderful. I think in my 9 years serving on the school district, I thought this year we had the greatest turnout. I thought we had a great turnout. Thank you, Jason, Daryl, and the rest of our team at Valentine and Carver, because you guys got everybody out, young and old, and we were able to just kind of celebrate homecoming together at the parade. I'm sure we stopped traffic, and I'm sure that some people didn't appreciate it, but I enjoyed the community coming together. Had a great football game. Okay, we won. And fireworks to celebrate. On the 10th, I served at Huntington Hospital as a volunteer. And on the 11th, last night, I attended APISMA, Asian Pacific Islanders School Board Members Association, and they continue to work tirelessly regarding curriculum for our students, and they're looking at ways in which they can support the work of school boards. So that's it for me. And yes, I do echo Mrs. Jack and Mrs. Chung's sentiment of thanking my board, and also the teachers and staff and administration and our cabinet for working tirelessly. So we cannot say enough for not only the recognition that we've received, but the support from our parents is unparalleled. Thank you.
Thank you, President Ryan, members of the Board of Education. It has been a very productive 2 weeks. I did attend the Valentine Fair, and I love both the Carver Carnival and the Valentine Fair as your acting superintendent. I did take my grandson with me, and he was just in awe of all of the pumpkins, and it was just really wonderful to see how much work goes into creating some of these events and how it brings the community together. And it reminds me of how we started the school year with our year's theme, which is Rise Together. And we knew coming off of the heels of the pandemic that it would be very important for us to bring people together. We want everyone to know how much we appreciate their contributions to making sure that every child is successful in the San Marino Unified School District, and that every child receives what he or she needs in order to be successful. We have worked really hard with our leadership team to make sure that we're providing opportunities for social emotional learning. We are working with our wonderful secondary principals on the wellness centers. As everyone is aware, the San Marino High School Wellness Center has been up and running. However, it is currently being remodeled, but students are still receiving services, which I think is important to announce to the board. Once the facility is fully remodeled, we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony that you will all be invited to for a grand reopening of that wellness center, which has proved to be very, very beneficial for all of our high school students. In addition to that, our wonderful principal, Topolian, has taken it upon himself to ensure that we have an opening of a wonderful wellness center at Huntington Middle School, which we have not had in the past. So they're working on that facility. It will take some time to make sure that we have that facility staffed with interns who are pursuing their MFTs. We have a wellness coordinator who's overseeing their work. Tonya Al-Hindi, she's doing a great job. She's going to be going back and forth between the schools to make sure that all students are receiving the necessary services. The executive team has been working with the principals, particularly at the secondary level. We're meeting every other week to review our current program and course offerings. We are looking at articulated pathways of learning. We are looking at a variety of different things. We're not wedded to any of them. We're just doing a lot of homework and a lot of research so that we can bring back those proposals to the Board of Education, ideally in a board study session for consideration. The types of things that we're looking at is expanding dual enrollment. We're looking at a school within a school model. We are looking at, as Mr. Chang mentioned earlier, a medical arts. We're not wedded to that. That's just an idea. We're throwing it out there. We're doing homework. We're seeing what that looks like. In other schools, we're looking at an early college academy, which would allow students while they're attending high school to earn college credits. Very exciting opportunities out there, very exciting things that are happening in other school districts. We're going to look at dual immersion at the elementary. We are going to be looking at other school districts that have that program in place. We are working really, really hard to make sure that, again, our programs are strong and that they meet our community's needs. And we're also going to solicit the assistance of a company that can help us put together a research-based survey that will go out and solicit stakeholder input on what we do in the future. It's critical that we bring this information to the Board of Education and allow the Board of Education to review it, digest it, and make their own suggestions and recommendations on the information that we provide. So we're really excited about the opportunities that are out there for our students. And as President Ryan mentioned, we attended a Rotary gathering at the Nears home, and they at that time made an announcement that the Rotary is going to pay for our Raptor system. And the Raptor system is a security system that I believe the board has been informed on previously, and it costs about $21,000. So the fact that the Rotary is willing to pay for this is a huge gift, and it's so appreciated in this time where we need to add additional security to protect all of our students at the schools. So Dr. Choi is going to be working on getting those funds and moving forward with the contract. And so now people who are coming to our campus as visitors will need to have their driver's license, right? Or an ID.
Some government issued ID would be required to register as a visitor to the campus.
Yes, and the system quickly, identifies whether or not they're cleared to move forward or there's a problem. And if there is a problem, the principal at the school site would be called and the principal would have to pull that person aside to talk with them. But we're hoping that we don't have any of those issues. But it is a very good system that other school districts are using, and we're excited about that. And we thank the Rotary for their generosity and their support of our schools. And that's all.
So thank you, Rotary. Now our student board member.
All right, so homecoming and the parade was last week. It seems successful to me, or at least I'm hoping so. Lucas and I met the mayor of San Marino. He was in our car, which that was really unexpected. He seemed really cool. And the only complaint we received about the parade was that there wasn't enough candy. So complaint duly noted for next time. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Communications from the audience regarding matters on the information agenda are to be made at this time. This is an information item. Dr. Choi.
Thank you, President Ryan. We are pausing for 1 minute to take requests to speak regarding the information items on the agenda. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. You have 30 seconds remaining. If you'd like to make a request to speak regarding information items on the agenda, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. Okay, we have no requests.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. Next, we have information items. This is procedural item, Dr. Stephen Choi on 11A, first day packet report. Again, this is informational item. Dr. Choi will provide an update on the San Marino Unified School District's first day packets.
Okay, good evening, President Ryan, members of the board, executive team, student member Karen. It's my pleasure to present an update on the first day packet. I've been providing updates just about every year after our first day packets, and no different this year. I'd like to just start off the presentation with a background on the first day packet, and then highlight some of the key changes that we implemented this year. And then finally conclude with some data on the comparisons of how the first day packet performed this year in relations to previous years. And then finally, just conclude with some highlights of some potential changes that may be coming next year, and honor any questions that you may have regarding the first day packet. So the first day packet traditionally has been a fairly large packet because we have a number of community organizations, including our, as well as our schools, foundations, PTAs that participate in the first day packet. And the premise behind the first day packet, it really is to gather contact and health related demographic information. But in addition to that, the first day packet has traditionally been an opportunity for our families to submit interest in volunteering, submit fees for school related or organization related items. And over the years, the packet has grown significantly. And back in 2015, the district did something that was very innovative, very cutting edge, and introduced an online first aid packet. Many school districts around us today still utilize a paper-based first aid packet. But in our district, we've been able to leverage the benefits of having an online first aid packet for a number of reasons. First, the online first aid packet makes it really legible when families complete very sensitive, confidential information. In fact, it's very important to make sure that that information is legible. And then secondly, security is a major concern. With paper first aid packets, the concern has always been, how do you keep that first aid packet information safe, right? With an online system, we've been able to safely and securely keep that data and only share that data with the constituents that really need access to that data. So those are tremendous benefits. And in most recent years, I would say this is our 4th year, we've introduced translations. So our first aid packet is also translated into Chinese for families that wish to submit their information securely using the Chinese version of the first aid packet. So every year we make adjustments to the first aid packet. Since 2015, we've streamlined the process, while at the same time, we've made adjustments to the items that are on the first aid packet. In 2021, this year, well, actually, let me step back a little bit. Last year, we actually tried something new. We created a first aid packet that was a 2-step process. We went through a process where we shared the first aid packet with the first team, as you may recall, was a committee of individuals that looked at financial revenues for our district. And one of the recommendations last year was to provide a little bit more emphasis on the school information as well as the school's foundation. When we looked at the data, unfortunately, it was a pandemic year. So it was very difficult to draw clear conclusions. But looking at the data closely last year, we determined that the 2-step process did not generate a significant return or significant increase in revenues. So we did revert back to the single form experience, meaning that all the families completed one form that included schools as well as foundation, as well as other school-related organizations. And this year, we did reintroduce and provide an opportunity to include additional items. Some of those items were tied to specific fundraising events. And yet at the same time, we did remove some items. One of the outcomes of the pandemic is that more of our families are now comfortable receiving information in a digital format. So the directory, for example, is no longer an item that the PTAs charge for. It is actually distributed securely with a lot of technology and security built in that prevents the directory from being printed, copied. So a lot of enhancements there. So those are some of the key changes in, key changes in the 21-22 first aid packet. So let's take a look at how the first aid packet performed. We're going to look at three key metrics. In terms of aggregate collections, this year was better than last year. However, in general, it is quite lower than the average since the start of the first aid packets in 2015. As you can see from this bar chart, bar graph here, that this year's first aid packet aggregate collection, meaning all of the monies that flowed through the first aid packet system, was approximately $1.66 million. It's a little bit better than 2020, but still quite significantly lower than previous years before the pandemic. Now, if we also take a look at school foundation collections through the first aid packet, I want to reiterate that these are collections, monies that were collected through the first aid packet. It does not represent all of the monies that go through the schools foundation. There was a significant, there was an increase compared to the previous year. However, in general, looking at the trend since 2015, it is still significantly lower on average compared to previous years. So some may wonder, is this tied to enrollment? Is it tied to the number of first aid packets that are completed? It may. There's no clear-cut answer. So enrollment definitely has a factor. I would also say that the ask and the dollar amounts are also a factor that affects the collections through the first aid packet. And one piece of good news is our metrics for school donations. As you can see, in 2021, we received an all-time high for our schools, donations going to our schools, breaking the 300,000 mark. So that is definitely positive news. And this year, we have received over $309,224. Now, these figures are based on pre-transaction fees. So the schools itself did not, in fact, receive the full 309,000. There is still a 2.75% transaction fee that the organization that processed the payments. In the past, when we first initiated the contract, it was InfoSnap. And since 2015, InfoSnap has been acquired by PowerSchool, and we are continuing to work with PowerSchool, which leads to my final slide. What's next? PowerSchool is a very large organization that offers a number of software products to our school district, and they have already announced that next year they are changing payment processing gateways, which means to us is that they are looking at raising the fees associated with transactions collected through the first aid packet. There will be a period of negotiations, a period of discussing with the vendor. They have already announced that they are looking to charge 3.49 to 3.99%, which is a significant increase from our current 2.75%. But the discussions are very early right now. We do have time. We typically plan for the first aid packet in April, but we will definitely keep the board apprised of any developments with the gateway processing. And of course, in working with the various organizations that participate in the first aid packet, the transaction fees will no doubt have an impact in consideration of what fees or what fee items may be included in next year's first aid packet. But we will continue to work with all the organizations to determine what are the fee items that we want to include in there. Maybe it's not as many fee items that we have currently. So that is an ongoing discussion that we will have, not just with the board, with all the organizations that participate in the first aid packet. So that concludes my presentation of the first aid packet. I would like to take any questions, or if anyone has any questions.
Dr. Choi, I have two questions. We talk about, obtaining the emergency information, right, which is great. But how, if I'm a parent and I move, to another address, right? How do I update that emergency information?
So the first aid packet is taking a snapshot in time. So when families report that they have a new address in the first aid packet, it is flagged. It is actually flagged with our registrar. So our registrar will check that address before it gets accepted and written into our student information system.
No, I'm talking about like, say, 6 months into the year, right? I move,
Yes,
right? And I need to update my emergency information. How do I do that?
right. So that would not involve the first day packet.
Okay,
Yeah, the first day packet typically closes 2 weeks after the first day of school.
okay. So what I would have to do is I would have to call the school district and ask them to update my information. Is that correct?
In most cases, families would report the address change to the school first. And depending on the type of address change, it may involve notifying the district.
And also parents can do that on Power School.
There is a mechanism in place in the parent portal that would allow families to update certain pieces of information. So for an address change, for example, if a family, a resident student moves out of the district boundaries, that type of change request would flag an inquiry. It doesn't get accepted right away automatically. Yeah.
Dr. Troy, and I'm sorry, I keep asking that question, but so I'm talking about so now can we switch to like emergency information, right? Like I've changed the person who's supposed to, I don't know, pick up my child, you know what I mean, in terms of the emergency information. How do I do that? Do I call the district?
So if you're changing the person that has the authority to pick up a child, for example, you would notify the school office. And the school office can enter that information into the student information system.
Okay, and that would mirror that Power School provided to them, right?
So this first day packet is a one-time change, right? So at the start of the school year, if you put in information into the first day packet, it would get accepted into the student information system. But 2 weeks after the first day of school, if you were to make a change, then you would want to notify the school office.
And then so the computer information would be updated is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, it would
Okay.
be updated by the school.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, great. And then how do we define school donations? Are we talking about donations to the PTA? Are we talking about donations directly to the school itself, like, Valentine? How do we define that?
So I use the term fees loosely because the term fees has a lot of connotations associated with it. But in
So,
terms,
how do you define, in your thing, in your wonderful presentation, you say school donations?
yes.
So how do you define school? Are we talking about?
So these are very specific to our 4 schools. So donations in the first day packet, for example, this year, the request suggested donation was $250 per student. And the school donations that you're referring to on the chart here is a sum of the donations collected for the 4 schools.
Okay, so it excludes PTA.
It excludes PTA.
Okay,
This
so
is,
it's specifically, right, I'm making it to the Valentine wish list fund or something, right?
yeah, that's a whole different fee item. That's a whole different item. This is very specific to one item on the first day packet, which
And
is the
what
school
item
day.
is that?
It's the school donation. It's the instructional school donation item.
Thank you. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
Can I just follow up on that on that question that you were asking? So if there was a donation that a family was going to give to one of the clubs at the high school, for example, the robotics club, that would not be under school donations?
That would not be. Yeah, there's over 100 fee items and approximately 11 organizations that participate.
And so this is
one
I want to give
item.
money to this school and
This school.
that's what that is.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Did you notice any, because there were changes over years, the last few years, was it consistent across all of the school sites? The change in the lower amounts or higher amounts and.
If we're talking about just the school donations, it's fairly consistent between the schools.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with questions? Dr. Choi, you mentioned the aggregate data and that 2020 during the pandemic and school closure, the donations were lower. Did other factors play in besides the closure of school, like declining enrollment? So the following year in 2021, and then are there other things that kind of were appropriate to note here in terms of when we're looking at data? How are we understanding the why of the decrease in donations?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be more of an opportunity to look at the data even closer. So we built a data set that has all of the fee items collected over the course of the last 7 years. And to take a closer look, because each fee item and each change really has a story of its own. And to characterize it as an aggregate collection, it's very difficult to do.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Thank you. All right. This is just informational item, right? Let's move on to 12. Thank you, Dr. Choi, for your hard work and for gathering all of this information. Communication from the audience regarding matters on the action agenda are to be made at this time. This is an informational item.
And we're going to take public comment first. So let me go ahead and allow attendees to raise their hand. And here we go. We are pausing for 1 minute to take requests to speak regarding action items on the agenda. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. We have 30 seconds remaining. If you'd like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. President Ryan, we have no requests.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. So 13 action item. This is a procedural item on 13A, resolution number 9, San Marino Unified School District, resolution in support of Red Ribbon Week. This is an action item. Dr. Lena Richter.
Thank you, President Ryan. It is my honor to present a little bit of information on this year's Red Ribbon Week. And in a few minutes, introduce a very important guest and member of our community to share a little bit more about specific activities that may be happening at our school sites in support of Red Ribbon Week. So National Red Ribbon Week is the nation's oldest and largest drug prevention awareness program. Each year in October, communities celebrate Red Ribbon Week to help raise awareness of the dangers of drugs through drug prevention activities and living a drug-free life. This year's National Red Ribbon Week is the week of October 25th through October 29th. The theme this year is Drug-Free Looks Like Me. To continue to raise awareness, staff would like to present the following resolution to make a visible statement and commitment to a drug-free lifestyle. And I'll take just a minute to read that resolution. Resolution number 9, a resolution by the Board of Education of the San Marino Unified School District of Los Angeles County, California, in support of Red Ribbon Week, October 25th through 29th, 2021. Whereas California and San Marino Unified School District value the health and safety of all our citizens, and whereas substance abuse is extremely damaging to one of our most important resources, our children, and a contributing factor in 3 leading causes of death for teenagers and young adults, accidents, homicides, and suicides. And whereas it is the goal of Red Ribbon Campaign and the San Marino Unified School District to involve families, schools, businesses, churches, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations in a unified effort to establish an atmosphere that supports awareness education and continual initiatives to prevent illegal drug use. And whereas The Red Ribbon Campaign theme over the years is one that promotes family and individual responsibility for living healthy, drug-free lifestyles without illegal drugs or illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas there are many activities involving the entire community planned during Red Ribbon Week in the San Marino Unified School District. Now, therefore, the San Marino Board of Education proclaims as follows. The Board of Education for the San Marino Unified School District does hereby declare October 25th through October 29th, 2021 to be the designated time for the commemoration of Red Ribbon Week in the community of San Marino schools. Therefore, the district does hereby encourage all citizens to participate in alcohol, tobacco, drug education, and other prevention activities, thus making a visible statement that the district is strongly committed to a drug-free lifestyle. And with that, the staff is recommending that the board adopt resolution number 9 in support of Red Ribbon Week.
I think that this is a wonderful thing. I think that the organizations in our community that help promote this, I'd like to thank everyone involved in PFA, as well as everybody in our community that works to promote these goals. And I would like to move to adopt resolution number 9.
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkey. Thank you, Mrs. Chong. Roll call vote. If there are no further discussion, Mrs. Jap,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mr. Clarkey,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I student vote. Thank you. So the motion has passed for resolution number 9, San Marino Unified School District's resolution in support of Red Ribbon Week.
By the way, is that district can share us what kind of activity? So maybe
There you go.
I was
All
just,
right,
if I
there we
may
go.
introduce our very important community member, president of PTA, excuse me, of Partnership for Awareness, Ms. Toby Chow, to share a little bit more about many of the activities that are happening district-wide as well as at our school sites.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and district leadership. Partnership for Awareness is proud to sponsor Red Ribbon Week 2021. Our dedicated site liaisons, with thoughtful input from our principals, counselors, psychologists, and ASBs, have planned events to celebrate making healthy choices throughout the week of October 25th to 29th at each school site. San Marino High School site liaison Claudia Bowles has secured professionals from Children's Hospital LA to provide a parent presentation on substance use and prevention on Monday, October 25th from 7 to 8:15 p.m. Titan Wellness Center counselor Tanya El-Hendi will facilitate a Q&A session after the presentation. San Marino High School ASB will plan the campus events for Red Ribbon Week on Thursday of this week using the How to Help approach. ASB volunteers will continue the long-standing tradition of decorating trees with red ribbons to kick off Red Ribbon Week on Monday, October 25th. Huntington Middle School site liaison Zaina Dowd and Michiko Dawson Lee have been working with ASB to plan a week of events raising awareness on making healthy choices and avoiding substance use abuse, including Monday, Red Day, be ready to make healthy choices. Tuesday, Twin Day, friends don't let friends do drugs or pair up against drugs. Wednesday is PJ Day, put drugs to sleep. Thursday is teachers versus travel team volleyball game. Bump, set, spike, tell drugs to take a hike. And Friday, the 29th, will culminate in a Halloween dress up. Our elementary school liaisons, Marissa Kelly at Valentine and Karen Lai and Catherine Yu at Carver, have coordinated Red Ribbon Week plans, including on both campuses. Monday is Wear Red Day. The color red symbolizes a healthy lifestyle. Students are encouraged to wear red to show that they have taken the pledge to be healthy. Former Harlem Globetrotter and four-time Guinness World Record holder Corey the Dribbler will perform tricks and inspire students with the character message READ, read, respect, education, attitude, and don't bully or do drugs during interactive live stream assemblies. Other events throughout the week include Inside Out and Crazy Hair Day, where students will wear their clothes inside out, let their emotions out and express themselves. Carver will have a Wear the Rainbow and Eat the Rainbow Day, using colored paper and write down their colorful food choices that they enjoy to eat. Both campuses are having a Silly Sock Day, use their hearts to share acts of kindness, and both schools on Friday are going to have Halloween parades. I have two more quick updates about events that it's important the San Marino community know about. Firstly, PFA would like to invite the entire San Marino Unified community to our next program on Tuesday, November 9th at 7 p.m. featuring executive function expert Suteta Kamath, who will give a presentation titled The Boss Brain, Pro Executive Function, Parenting Strategies that Foster Self-Awareness and Independence in Kids and Teens. So I'm an educator myself, and I know how critical executive function is to academic success. So whether you're a parent, a community member, or educator, this presentation will help all stakeholders understand the cognitive and emotional processes behind the developing prefrontal cortex, emerging executive function proficiency, and the best ways to turn everyday learning obstacles into meaningful growth in children and teens who need to become future forward thinkers. And lastly, I would like to announce that with the shift to virtual programming during the pandemic, PFA had a one-time budget surplus that the Board of Partnership of Awareness last month voted to allocate $20,000 in grants to San Marino Unified School sites to support the mission of PFA. And I'm happy to report I've received the first grant application from Jason over there. So the application window is about 1 month. So the grant committee really looks forward to reading the applications and support our school counselors, psychologists, and administrators in supporting the mission of PFA and supporting our students, especially coming out of the pandemic when the social emotional health of our students is so critical. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Next, 13B, community service graduation requirement. This is an adjustment for the class of 2022, 2023, and 2024. This is an action item. I'd like to call Principal Kurtenbach.
Thank you, President Ryan, members of the board. I first want to say I'm really shocked that I beat Dr. Lynn to submitting. That was my goal, and I was actually really shocked that I did that. So thank you, Toby. Yes, we are submitting for an adjustment to be made to the community service hours. Our seniors got a 1.5 years where they weren't able to really access that, as did our juniors. So we're making this adjustment so that it's kind of commiserate with their inability to go out into the community and get the service hours. Our freshmen will of course have 4 years, and knock on wood, with no other closures, they'll be able to complete that. Most of our seniors have done well over the 40 hours, so we really want to honor that and continue to keep that as a requirement. And the few who have not been able to meet that, we're working with them through their counselors and their parents and our various organizations to make sure they get that. I do want to say we've gone digital with that, which has been a big success with our kids and our parents. Their ability to sort of make their numbers known to us, and we can then put it right into our spreadsheet, which makes sure that they know that they are right on target has been great. And that's all thanks to our registrar, Sonia Quiros, who keeps track of all that. So it's worked out really well.
So with that, this is also an action item. Are there any questions for Principal Kurtenbach at this time?
I have a question. Can you explain how to certify the volunteer hour? Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
majority of our students will go to an organization,
Mhm.
they'll put in their community service hours, and then a leader from that organization will sign off on their hours. So that's the way we used to do it when we did it by hand. We do now is they can upload that sheet, they can upload a document that we have created digitally. So they can download that, they can send it via PDF. As long as that document gets uploaded to our Google form, we can certify it that way. And what we're doing is we're refining our database because we had a list of about 50, I think the biggest list I saw was 75 organizations that we did a pre-approval on. But many of those don't exist any longer. They hadn't been done in quite some time. So we're using the new information from our students to identify new organizations and then certify them. And that's what Sonia does. She contacts them, she makes sure that they're viable, and we get back to the students within probably less than a week. But our kids are fantastic. I actually have one kid who's done over 700 hours.
Whoa.
So yeah, we've got some really great kids doing a lot of good work out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? How many students do you think are actually going to have a challenge trying to meet that last 15 hours?
Right now, off the top of my head, I've done a little look-see because that's really where my idea was, let's reduce by number of years, but let's also look to see, because some kids may have had more time freshman, sophomore, junior year, and then their senior year, it's going to be really difficult. And I want to say about 30 kids were shy of what we're hoping they get right now. The majority of our students actually were complete. And then, like I said, we're working with them actively with our counselors. If it became a problem, we can always come back and ask you to forgive that for those kids. And we could look at the reasons why maybe they weren't able to get the community service hours. I know the board has done that in the past for a few students. And this is a really unique situation. So we'll be monitoring that throughout the course of the year. This isn't going to be a barrier for kids graduating for certain. That's not going to happen.
So maybe like an appeal process, you mean, in a way, as far as coming back if they did?
Not necessarily an appeal. We'll be talking to our counselors. So let's say I have 4 counselors and they come and say, oh, each of us have about 3 kids who are really having a tough time getting this done. We could list out those kids. We could come to you, ask for you to forgive that. And then if you approve, we'll just let them graduate with that. It's not a requirement of the state. It's our requirement. So we have the ultimate flexibility to do really whatever we need to.
Are you finding that the challenge is there's not enough organizations for them to meet their hours?
It's not, right now, it's not the organizations, it's just the time. Do you have enough time? And a lot of our kids, quite frankly, are coming in and they're struggling with coming back to school and kind of all that it means to get up earlier in the morning again and sustain kind of that day-to-day activity of being at school, going to practice, coming home, doing homework. So we're looking at that as a barrier and how can we help them get through that is the important piece. Like I said, it's not going to be something that stops any student from graduating, but we still have extremely motivated students who are going out there and engaging the community in this way. As a matter of fact, at the mixer tomorrow night, at the old mill, there's a few of our students who are going to be there helping to watch some of the young kids while their parents get to know the foundation. So we have lots of places reaching out to us because they know that our kids are fantastic. One of Mike Lynn's teachers started a tutoring service basically from the school site. So our kids go down there and help the little kids get their homework done, learn to read, things of that nature. So it's working all the way around, and we've asked her to look at expanding that to not just Valentine, but Huntington. because our kids are interested in doing that as well.
Is Huntington one of the options as well that they can?
Yeah. Huntington breakfast. I
Yep.
just called it the wrong thing. I was there for 5 years. The Huntington breakfast is one area, but really any of their things that they need, our kids are available, and Mr. Topalian reaches out, as does Mary. Yeah.
One of my thoughts or my concerns is I would think that one of the goals of implementing this requirement was to try to really mold and build good global citizens that want to be involved and are invested in the community and when there's times of challenge, working to help solve the problem, whatever problem they decide to work toward. I think that it would be good to keep the requirement if there was specific instances where people may not be meeting requirements and there was sort of on a one-by-one basis, then maybe that might be an option that I would think may work. But to keep that requirement in place, it helps not only the community and the organizations that they're volunteering for, but it really helps the student build as a person, as a global citizen. And so trying to maybe, my suggestion, if we were asked for one, would maybe be to try to find an alternative way to not change the requirement, but to have some grace if there is some issues that are presenting with a specific student, and that can be addressed either through an appeal process or through a one-by-one situation with a recommendation from the principal, for example, or something like that. That would be my thoughts.
One of the things that we're doing is trying to manage all of our students' kind of overwhelming stress and pressure. And what I've been getting from some parents and some students in regard to this is it still at 40? I only have 25. Is it still at 40? Where am I going to get? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I'm already overwhelmed. So for something that someone has put some time into, has put some effort and have really stretched themselves, because some of our kids, this is a big stretch for them, to kind of honor that work. And then, of course, we would love them to volunteer more. Lucas is an excellent example. I mean, homecoming happened not because of the adults at all. It's the kids. And you could say, you're in the ASB class, that's an hour. You guys were way longer than an hour every single day. I mean, that Friday, I don't think a single adult ran that school. That school was run by these guys, and it went off without a hitch. And they don't get community service hours for that. So looking at how can we alleviate some of the stress and pressure that these kids are under, to try to get back into the groove, get ready for college, especially the seniors who are probably under a lot more pressure than any of us are going to ever know or realize. It's a little thing that we can take off. We're still encouraging. We have lots of opportunities, and we have kids that are still raising their hands and doing all that good work. But we're still encouraging, and we're still finding more opportunities for them. As a matter of fact, Ms. Quiros just revised the entire thing this week, and PFA, she's like, that was never on the list. I go, how is that not on the list? So we're learning more through the process from our kids, and I think we'll probably see most of our kids hit the 40 anyway, because they just, they're out in the community and they love doing that stuff.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to bring up a point. This is an administrative regulation that you are asking us to accept your recommendation on.
Mhm.
That falls under your jurisdiction, that falls under your jurisdiction, not ours.
I know, it's
I
just,
don't
we've
actually-
done this for several years. I kind of felt like I got to
I
come back
know.
to the well again.
And I appreciate the sentiment behind it, but I think in the interest of making sure it is clear whose role it is to accept what the students are expected to do, we as a board have a policy in place of graduation, citizenship, and part of that being community service. But to be perfectly frank, I don't want you coming back to me with a list of 10 kids and telling me case by case scenarios. That's what you're there for, and I trust your judgment
I appreciate
and
that.
their circumstances and how to navigate what's best for the students, because this is an AR. So while I appreciate your desire to come before us, I actually feel a little uncomfortable with saying what it is that you're asking us to do. Like, so I think in my mind, I would like to accept the recommendation and then give you sort of that room to navigate what that looks like, because this falls under an AR.
It's funny that you say that, because quite a few conversations this last couple of weeks, because we have kids struggling in various ways, both at San Marino High School and then, in other areas. And somebody asked, well, can you do this? Can you do that? And I said, well, I don't want to sound really tough, but I can pretty much graduate whoever I say has met the criteria. I don't want to do that because I don't feel like that's like my place to just like throw a bunch of people through, but I understand the sentiment and understand my role in that. I think it's good to get feedback from you all as well, because I think that's extremely valuable. But yeah, our kids are going to be just fine, and we'll make sure they get on their way.
So I echo Mrs. Chan's sentiment, and I appreciate you coming to us, right? But I do want to clarify, right? I mean, who makes a decision for what and when? And I do appreciate this perhaps as an informational item. And as Mrs. Chan said, we accept the recommendation, but I do agree with her. It is not within our purview to decide which kids, right, should or shouldn't get a pass in terms of your determination of what the instructional minute should be. So again, Principal Kurtenbach, so happy that you're doing that for the kids and you're thinking of them, and thank you for bringing it to the board. But I just, there are issues I think that we must tackle, and there are issues that I think we should acknowledge and get information from. So I'm happy with that, but I would be willing to accept the recommendation, but I feel uncomfortable because this isn't within our jurisdiction, so to speak.
Well, I agree. I understand. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Chang.
Besides all of the consideration, actually, I want to share my personal experience, because I serving for multiple non-for-profit organization. So some of the parents may know how to approach me and to get the volunteer work. But for last 10 years, I observe, the volunteer work quality. I know that some is probably one time volunteer, like a Huntington breakfast, but some is probably longer and more meaningful, and also eventually you can put in a college admission. But I want to bring up the advice to the parent, or the student. I like to probably not urgent, but we should come out a very, very short volunteer handbook. Tell them, what they need to pay attention to the employer, because I have experience not in our high school, in a very high academic, the institute, yeah, they send the volunteer to my organization, and then they come 1 week and look at everything and tell me the bye. But before they start, I give them all kind of training, I give them what is a hip hop and what is, and then just a couple of days and I say goodbye. So I think that the handbook is very important. Just teach our students how important, they need to start to learn. I think in the society, build up, the integrity or the quality, the work, yeah. So that's my suggestion, but it's not for give you the assignment, but I think share to our school district. Yeah.
All right. With that, I think, Mr. Kernbach, you're hearing from the board that you have our blessings in terms of your administrative rights in administering this. And thank you for your compassion for the students who are needing extra kindness and care during this time. And so thank you for your sensitivity towards that.
Don't we all need that?
Yes, absolutely. With that, 13C, Mr. Kurtenbach, you are asked again to present. This is San Marino High School revised instructional minutes update. This is an action item. San Marino High School is requesting board approval on revised instructional minutes. This discussion then leads to action. Mr. Kurtenbach.
This one, I'm reasonably sure you do have to take action on, so. And only because I used to do it, and I completely want to own the fact that I screwed up the minutes on the regular schedule. So I was adding it going, God, why am I so short? Why am I so short? And then, you know, what I realized is I didn't include homeroom because it's not a standalone period like I'm used to. It's built into the schedule. So I actually calculated those incorrectly. Also, because I had never done a PSAT during a regular school day, we had not included that on our instructional minutes at the beginning of the year. And then when my assistant principal said, oh yeah, so that's the 13th, I go, you know what I didn't do? I did not put that on, so I had to revise it. But that gave me the opportunity to appropriately revise the minutes, which means we are well over the amount that we need. So those are correct finals and should be good to go from now on. The 11/12/21 comes, so after the back to school night or the open house, you typically have a late start or an early release minimum day for the staff because they've stayed extra late. And that's pseudo contractual. So that is there on the 12th. Which we have the showcase, which was formerly known as open house, done in like March, April. We moved that up because we want to kind of be in line and parody the private schools who are reaching out trying to grab our kids. So we're going to grab them back. And thanks to the amazing work that's being done by my staff and all of our parent groups, our booster groups, it's going to be quite a blowout for us. So we're really excited to do that on the 10th, November 10th. And then we'll head off to a little one day off for Veterans Day.
All right, with that, are there other questions? No? You have a motion?
I make a motion to approve 13A, San Marino High School revised instructional minutes update.
A second?
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. Thank you, Mrs. Chung. And so with that, I do roll call. Mr. Kalaki,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Chung,
Aye.
Mrs. Jack,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, student board member.
So there is one change, I think, Jason, it says showcase 11/12/21, and you were saying it's the 10th.
But that's the late start.
We have it on the 10th.
Okay,
The 11th is a vacation, and then the
It's a
12th
holiday.
is the late start that they get because they were.
and
there
that's
on
why
the
you have
10th.
it identified as showcase.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay, 'cause
It's
we were
just,
going
that's
round
why
and round
it's
that
there,
date.
is what I meant.
Oh,
That's why.
okay.
Thank you. With that, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Kurtvogt.
Dodgers are up 4-1 in bottom.
Okay, thank you. All right. 13D, San Gabriel Valley SELPA Community Advisory Council. This is through 2023. This is an action item. Dr. Lena Richter.
Thank you, President Ryan. This is a.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This is a procedural item that the staff is bringing to the Board of Education for approval of appointment for members to the Community Advisory Committee of the SELPA, the West San Gabriel Valley SELPA. The Community Advisory Committee is an advisory committee that's made up of parents and community members from the 14 local school districts that make up the West San Gabriel Valley SELPA. The Community Advisory Committee serves as an advisory board to review and help develop the local plan for special education, recommends annual priorities to be addressed by the SELPA, encourages community involvement, assists in parent education and provides support to families with children with special needs. Parents Miss Gail Chang and Miss Rhonda Woods have volunteered to serve as representatives from the San Marino Unified School District. Board approval is required by the SELPA for appointment of these community or parent representatives. So on behalf of the San Marino Unified School District Special Education Department, the staff would like the recommendation to approve and appoint Ms. Gail Chang and Ms. Rhonda Wood to the West San Gabriel Valley SELPA Community Advisory Council. Each term is 2 years, so these parents will serve through 2023.
So these two are the student parent, right?
Correct.
Any additional questions, discussion? May I have a motion?
I move to approve.
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Chong and Mrs. Jack. The motion has been received to approve the appointment of Gail Chang and Rhonda Wood to the West San Gabriel Valley SELPA Community Advisory Council. With that roll call vote, Mr. Kalaki,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mrs. Jack,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, student board member.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes. Board Superintendent, any discussion items?
I would like to take this opportunity to thank my very hardworking, dedicated, and loyal assistant, Jennifer Delatorre, who is here on her birthday.
Happy birthday, Jennifer.
I asked if Jennifer Wheeler could sub in for her because it was her birthday and she should go home and spend time with her family, but she refused. So she wanted to be here with us on her special day.
Okay, but the barbecue is this weekend, just so you know, I know.
Board President, I like to share my reflection from the San Marino Tribune. You know, as we work together, I always appreciate an organization. They always have a harmonies. So I see the one of the pay ad. I feel we are so lucky. I appreciate, you know, the school district, the leadership, you know, also teacher union, you know, understanding, you know, when there are critical issue, I think all should work together. Yeah, not to do the personal attack. You know what I mean? I'm not share the another organization. So I think during the pandemic, a lot of strategy. So I hope that everyone understand when the leader or the administrator they did the organization, what they come from, and definitely is to take care for the human being life. So this concept is very important. So I'm glad you know we are able, you know, to take care of this issue. Yeah. So this is my reflection for this week. But I saw that ad. I'm also very painful.
Thank you. We are returning to close. Thank you, Dr. Choi. With that, we're closing the session.